Stop. Just stop for a second. You know that feeling when you're driving down a familiar road and suddenly realize you don't remember the last 5 minutes. Like you were there, but not really there. That's your life right now. And deep down, you know it. Look, I'm not here to sell you anything or tell you to buy some course. I'm here because something brought you to this exact moment. And if you're anything like I was 6 months ago, you're probably sitting there thinking, here we go, another self help guru telling me I'm broken. But what if you're not broken? What if you're just sleeping? Here's the thing nobody talks about, that restless energy you feel, that constant nagging that there's something more. That's not depression. That's not anxiety. That's your soul literally banging on the inside of your chest, screaming, let me out. Picture this. You're at work tomorrow, same desk, same routine. But instead of going through the motions, you suddenly see it all differently. The colleague who annoys you, you realize they're just as trapped as you were. The boss who seems impossible, they're running from something too. Everything shifts, not because the world changed, but because you woke up. But wait, you're thinking, what does this have to do with alchemy? Everything. Those old guys weren't just trying to turn metal into gold. They were mapping out the most dangerous journey imaginable, the journey from who you think you are to who you actually are. And it's dangerous because, well, let me ask you something personal. What would happen to your current life if you stopped pretending? If you stopped saying, I'm fine, when you're not? If you stopped staying in situations that drain your soul just because they're safe? If you stopped being the person everyone expects you to be and started being the person you secretly are when nobody's watching? Terrifying, right? That terror? That's stage one. Here's what I discovered that no YouTube video will tell you. Your biggest breakdown was actually your breakthrough trying to happen. That relationship that destroyed you, that job that nearly broke your spirit, that moment when everything fell apart and you didn't know who you were anymore. That was the universe literally burning away everything fake so the real you could emerge. But most people rebuild the same prison with prettier walls. Not you, though. You're here. You're listening. Which means part of you is ready to stop running from your own power. Because here's the secret they've been hiding in plain sight. You already are gold. You just got convinced you were lead. Think about it. Remember when you were 7 years old? Before the world told you to be realistic, before you learned to doubt yourself, before you started asking permission to be yourself. That kid, still in there, still whole, still knowing exactly who they are. The ancient masters called this solve et coagula, dissolve and reconstruct. But they weren't talking about some mystical process. They were talking about having the courage to let your false self die so your true self could live. Okay, you're thinking, this sounds intense. What if I'm not ready? Here's how you know if you're ready. You're still listening. Most people would have clicked away by now. They'd rather stay comfortable in their familiar misery than face the possibility of extraordinary joy. But you're still here. That's not coincidence. That's recognition. Your soul recognizing itself in these words. Your deeper wisdom saying, yes, finally, someone speaking my language. So what happens next? Nothing magical. No lightning bolts or dramatic revelations. Just you. Starting to pay attention to the voice that's been trying to reach you through every restless night, every moment of inexplicable sadness, every time you looked in the mirror and thought, who is that person? The fire isn't something you need to find. It's already burning. It's been burning since the day you first felt different, since the first time you knew there was more to life than what everyone was settling for. The only question is, are you finally ready to stop running from it? Because once you turn toward that fire instead of away from it, once you stop trying to put it out and start letting it transform you, everything changes. And I mean everything. Your relationships, your work, your entire experience of being alive shifts from surviving to thriving, from existing to living, from sleepwalking to being fully, powerfully, unapologetically awake. The call isn't random, it never is. And if you've made it this far, if something inside you is stirring right now, if you feel that familiar fire starting to burn a little brighter, welcome to the beginning. The first portal, why your life must fall apart. You're probably wondering why everything good in your life seems to be crashing down at once. Your relationship ended out of nowhere. That job you thought was secure suddenly feels meaningless. Friends you trusted for years now feel like strangers. And somewhere in the middle of this chaos, you found this message. That's not coincidence, that's your soul preparing you for resurrection. But here's what nobody tells you about transformation. It doesn't start with finding yourself. It starts with losing everything you thought you were. I know that sounds terrifying, because right now, you're probably gripping onto whatever pieces of your old life still make sense. That routine that keeps you functional. Those beliefs that once made you feel safe. That version of yourself that everyone recognizes. But what if I told you that everything falling apart isn't the problem? It's the solution trying to happen. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine you're living in a house built on quicksand, but you've gotten so used to the constant shifting that you think it's normal. The walls are cracking, the foundation is sinking, but you keep hanging new pictures and rearranging furniture, desperately trying to make it feel like home. That's your old life. And the universe is about to condemn the building. Here's something fascinating that modern psychology discovered, but ancient alchemists knew all along. Your brain literally cannot create new neural pathways while it's still running on old patterns. It's neurologically impossible to become a new person while clinging to old thoughts, old reactions, old ways of being. Your nervous system has to go into complete chaos, what scientists call neuroplasticity crisis, before it can rewire itself into something stronger. Translation? Your breakdown isn't breaking you, it's breaking you open. Think about the last time you completely lost it. I mean, really lost it. Ugly crying in your car, screaming into a pillow, that moment when all your defenses crumbled and you felt absolutely raw and exposed. How did you feel the next morning? Different, right? Like something had shifted, even if you couldn't name it. That's what the alchemists called negredo, the black phase, the death that comes before rebirth. But they also knew something your therapist probably never told you. This death is voluntary. You can choose to let go, or you can be dragged kicking and screaming. Either way, the old you is dying. Here's where it gets really intense. Every time you've ever said, I don't know who I am anymore, that wasn't confusion. That was clarity. Because for the first time, you weren't pretending to be someone else's version of you. Remember being a teenager and feeling like your skin didn't fit right? Like you were wearing a costume that everyone insisted was your real clothes? That discomfort wasn't rebellion. That was your authentic self trying to break free from a borrowed identity. Well, guess what? It's happening again. Except this time, you have the courage to let it. But here's the part that separates those who transform from those who just suffer. You have to participate in your own demolition. When Isaac Newton lost himself in alchemical obsession, he wasn't going crazy. He was going sane in a world that had taught him to be insane. When he emerged from years of isolation with the laws of physics that changed everything, that wasn't despite his breakdown, it was because of it. Your current crisis isn't punishment, it's preparation. Every relationship that's ending, it's making space for connections that actually nourish your soul. Every dream that's dying, it's clearing the way for visions that align with who you're becoming, not who you used to be. But here's the catch, and this is why most people turn back at this threshold. You can't take anything with you, not your old excuses, not your familiar suffering, not even your cherished wounds that have become part of your identity. What are you most afraid of losing right now? Your reputation, your security, your sense of being needed? That thing you're clutching onto? That's exactly what needs to burn. Because on the other side of that fire isn't just a better version of your old life. It's a completely different life, lived by a completely different you. Someone who doesn't just survive, they create. Someone who doesn't just react, they choose. Someone who doesn't just exist, they truly live. The question isn't whether you're strong enough to handle the transformation. The question is, are you finally exhausted enough with your own limitations to let them die? Because the phoenix doesn't rise despite the ashes. It rises because of them. And your ashes, they're about to become wings. The second portal, when emptiness becomes your teacher. You wake up and nothing feels familiar anymore. Not your reflection, not your thoughts, not even the sound of your own voice when you speak. It's like someone rewired your entire existence while you slept. And now you're walking around in a life that technically belongs to you but feels completely foreign. That's not disorientation. That's awakening. But here's what nobody prepared you for. After the breakdown comes the breakthrough, and breakthrough feels empty, hollow, like someone scooped out your insides and forgot to put anything back. You keep waiting for the enlightened feeling to kick in, the peace, the clarity, the magical knowing that all the spiritual books promised. Instead, you're sitting in this weird in-between space where nothing makes sense anymore. But somehow, that's exactly where you need to be. Welcome to the most uncomfortable gift you'll ever receive. Here's something they don't teach in meditation apps. Emptiness isn't the absence of something. It's the presence of everything, stripped of all the stories you used to tell yourself about what it meant. Think about the last time you were in a crowded room but felt completely alone. Not lonely, alone. Present but separate. Watching everyone play their roles while you suddenly couldn't remember what your role was supposed to be. That wasn't social anxiety. That was your authentic self, recognizing the theater for what it is. Now multiply that by 1,000, and you'll understand where you are right now. You've been ejected from the play, and you can't get back in because you no longer believe in the script. But here's the secret that changes everything. This emptiness you're feeling, it's not empty at all. It's full of potential, full of space for who you're actually becoming to emerge. You know that voice in your head that never stops chattering? The one that's been your constant companion since childhood, commenting on everything, judging everyone, telling you what to worry about next? Have you noticed it's been quieter lately? That's not depression. That's not numbness. That's the sound of your borrowed thoughts losing their power over you. For your entire life, you've been living as a collection of other people's opinions about who you should be. Your parents' expectations, society's definitions of success, your past traumas' protective mechanisms, all of it layered on top of your actual self, like makeup you forgot you were wearing. The breakdown burned it all off. Now you're sitting here looking in the mirror at your actual face, and you don't recognize it because you haven't seen it in decades. Here's what's happening in your brain right now that no spiritual teacher talks about. Your neural pathways are literally restructuring. Scientists call it default mode network disruption, the part of your brain that creates your sense of continuous self is going offline and rebuilding from scratch. You're not losing your mind, you're finding it. But this process requires something that goes against every survival instinct you have. You have to stop trying to fill the emptiness. No more podcasts to distract yourself. No more scrolling to numb out. No more calling friends just to hear your own voice reflected back. For maybe the first time in your life, you have to sit with yourself, the real you, not the performance version, and learn to be comfortable in the silence. And that silence, it's terrifying because in that space, you start to realize how much of your identity was just noise. The thoughts that loop obsessively, not yours. They're programs running in the background, installed by experiences that are over. The fears that seem so real, not yours. They belong to past versions of you who needed protection that you no longer need. The voice that criticizes everything you do, definitely not yours. That's every disappointed adult from your childhood speaking through you. When you finally stop listening to all of that chatter, something incredible happens. You hear something else, something that's been waiting patiently beneath all the noise your entire life. Your own voice, your actual thoughts, your true knowing. And it sounds nothing like what you expected. It's quieter than the noise, but infinitely more powerful. It doesn't argue or justify or explain, it simply knows. And what it knows is this: you are not who you thought you were, and that's the best news you'll ever receive. The emptiness isn't something to escape from, it's something to explore. Because in that space between who you were and who you're becoming lies the most authentic version of yourself you've ever been. The third portal. When reality starts making sense. You're walking through your life and suddenly everything clicks. That person who hurt you 5 years ago, they show up in your thoughts right before you meet someone who teaches you exactly what you needed to learn from that pain. The job you lost that devastated you. It forced you onto the path where you discovered your actual purpose. That random conversation with a stranger last week, they said exactly what you needed to hear at exactly the right moment. These aren't coincidences anymore. You can see the threads. It's like someone handed you the cheat codes to existence. And now you're walking around watching everyone else struggle with a game you're starting to understand. But here's the thing that's probably freaking you out. If you can see the patterns now, were they always there? The answer is yes, and that changes everything. Here's what's happening to your brain that no one talks about. You've developed what neuroscientists call pattern recognition hyperconnectivity. The same neural networks that once kept you trapped in reactive loops are now connecting dots across time and space in ways that seem almost supernatural. But it's not supernatural. It's you finally operating at your designed capacity. Think about the last time something randomly went wrong in your life. Your car broke down, your flight got canceled, your plans fell through. But then something better happened that couldn't have happened if everything had gone according to plan. At the time, you called it lucky. Now you're starting to wonder if luck is just intelligence you don't recognize yet. Your thoughts have become eerily predictive. You think about someone and they text you. You need something and it appears. You worry about a problem and the solution shows up in the most unexpected way. This isn't magic. This is you learning to operate in harmony with how reality actually works instead of fighting against it. But here's where it gets really intense. You're starting to realize that your inner world and outer world aren't separate things. They're the same thing expressed in different ways. When you were angry all the time, remember how everything seemed to go wrong? Traffic, technology, other people, like the whole world was conspiring against you. You thought the world was broken. Turns out you were the broken part, and you were broadcasting that brokenness into every interaction, every decision, every moment of your day. Now that you've cleaned up your internal frequency, watch what happens. Doors open that were locked before. People respond differently. Opportunities appear from nowhere. The same world, but suddenly it's supporting you instead of sabotaging you. This is what the ancients meant when they said, as above, so below. Your consciousness isn't trapped inside your skull. It's the invisible field that shapes everything you experience. Here's the part that will blow your mind. Every emotion you feel is literally a radio frequency. Depression vibrates at 20 hertz. Anger at 150 hertz. Love at 500 hertz. Joy at 540 hertz. You've been unknowingly broadcasting your frequency to everyone and everything around you, and reality has been responding accordingly. Change the frequency. Change the reality. But there's something even deeper happening. You're starting to feel like you have two different operating systems now. The old reactive you that panics and struggles and tries to control everything, and this new version that somehow just knows what to do. In traffic instead of road rage, you feel curious about what this delay might be protecting you from. When plans change, instead of frustration, you feel excited about what wants to emerge instead. When someone treats you badly instead of taking it personally, you see their pain and respond with compassion. It's like you've developed emotional X-ray vision. You can see through surface appearances straight to the deeper patterns playing out. The question that's probably haunting you now is, if this has always been available, why didn't anyone teach you this before? Because you couldn't learn it before. Your old identity was too solid, too defended, too convinced it knew how things worked. You had to dissolve completely before you could rebuild with this new understanding integrated into your foundation. This is what alignment actually means. Not some abstract spiritual concept, but the lived experience of your inner reality and outer reality dancing together in perfect harmony. And the most beautiful part? This is just the beginning. Because once you can see the patterns, you can consciously participate in creating them. Once you understand the frequency game, you can choose what to broadcast. You're not just living your life anymore, you're composing it. The fourth portal, the spell you cast. every time you speak. Listen to the voice in your head right now as you hear this. This probably won't work for me. I'm not the type of person who, my life is just, stop, right there. You just cast a spell, and it's working perfectly. Here's something that will shatter how you see reality. Your words aren't describing your life, they're creating it. Every single sentence you speak is literally programming the quantum field around you to match your declaration. Think about your last job interview. Remember what you said to yourself in the parking lot beforehand? I'm so nervous. I always mess these up. They probably won't like me. Then you walked in already defeated, and guess what happened? You got exactly what you ordered. Here's the science they don't teach. When you speak, your vocal cords create specific frequency patterns that your entire nervous system absorbs. These frequencies literally rewire your neural pathways to seek evidence for whatever you just declared. Say, I'm unlucky enough times, and your brain becomes a heat-seeking missile for disappointment. It will ignore 1,000 good things to find the one thing that proves you right. But here's what's really terrifying. You've been doing this unconsciously your entire life. Your mother said, money doesn't grow on trees 1,000 times. Now you unconsciously sabotage every financial opportunity. Your father said, good things don't last. Now you end relationships before they can end you. You inherited their words like DNA, and you've been casting their spells with your voice. But what if I told you that changing just one word can change everything? Instead of, I have to go to work, try, I get to contribute my gifts. Instead of, I'm so stressed, try, I'm reorganizing for something better. Instead of, why does this always happen to me? Try, what is this teaching me? Watch what happens to your energy when you speak differently. Your body will literally feel lighter because you're broadcasting a different frequency into your cells. Here's something incredible. NASA discovered that astronauts who spoke about their missions with excitement and possibility had 40% fewer health issues in space than those who focused on the dangers and difficulties. Same space, same radiation, same challenges, different words, different reality. Your words are the bridge between your inner world and your outer experience. Every time you speak, you're literally voting for the reality you want to live in. The question is, what reality are you voting for? Because whether you realize it or not, the universe is listening to every word, taking every declaration as a direct order, and arranging circumstances to give you exactly what you keep asking for. Your life right now is the perfect manifestation of everything you've been saying about yourself. The fifth portal, the fusion of opposites. You know that voice that criticizes you for being too much and then judges you for not enough in the same day? The one that tells you to be strong but shames you for not feeling. That pushes you to succeed but makes you feel guilty for ambition. That wants you to be spiritual but judges your material desires. That's not wisdom. That's internal warfare. And it's exhausting you from the inside out. Here's what nobody tells you about transformation. The real battle isn't between you and the world. It's between the parts of yourself you've been taught to accept and the parts you've been trained to reject. Think about yesterday. How many times did you catch yourself in contradiction? Wanting to be vulnerable, but forcing yourself to be strong. Craving success, but feeling guilty about being materialistic. Needing alone time, but judging yourself for being antisocial. You're literally at war with your own nature. But here's the breakthrough that changes everything. What if those aren't contradictions? What if they're complementary forces that create your unique power when they work together instead of fighting each other? Your sensitivity isn't the enemy of your strength. It's what makes your strength authentic. Your logical mind isn't the enemy of your intuition. It's what gives your intuition practical application. Your material desires aren't the enemy of your spiritual growth. They're how your spirit expresses itself in physical form. The ancient alchemists knew something. Modern psychology is just rediscovering. Psychological integration isn't about choosing sides within yourself. It's about becoming the peaceful negotiator between all your different aspects. Here's something profound. Your brain has two distinct neural networks that are supposed to work together, but rarely do. The task positive network, your doing energy, and the default mode network, your being energy. Most people live in constant tension between these two, never allowing them to collaborate. But when they sync up, that's when you experience flow states. That's when impossible things become effortless. That's when you stop feeling torn in two and start feeling whole. The parts of yourself you've been rejecting aren't your shadow. They're your missing puzzle pieces, your anger. It's your boundaries trying to form, your sadness. It's your heart processing what needs to be released, your fear. It's your wisdom protecting what matters most. When you stop fighting these parts and start listening to what they're trying to tell you, something miraculous happens. The internal war ends, and all that energy you were using to suppress parts of yourself becomes available for creation. You stop being a house divided against itself and become an integrated force of nature. The question isn't whether you can love all parts of yourself. The question is, are you ready to stop exhausting yourself with internal conflict and start accessing the power that comes from inner unity? Because the world doesn't need another person pretending to be perfect. It needs you, all of you, operating at full capacity. The sixth portal, the encounter with the inner master. You just realized you haven't Googled how to fix my life in weeks. That desperate scrolling through endless articles, courses, and gurus promising they have your answers, it stopped. Not because you found the right teacher, but because you finally heard the one who was always there, your own voice. Remember when you were 5 years old and you just knew things? You knew who was safe and who wasn't. You knew what felt right and what felt wrong. You didn't need a book or a coach or a seminar to tell you. You just knew. Then the world taught you not to trust that knowing. Don't be silly. You're too young to understand. Listen to the adults. Follow the rules. Don't question authority. Layer by layer, they buried your inner compass under everyone else's directions until you forgot it existed. But here's what's happening now. You're excavating it. Every time you choose what feels right over what looks right, you're digging deeper. Every time you trust your gut instead of the expert's opinion, you're clearing another layer. Every time you say, "This doesn't feel true for me," instead of forcing yourself to believe it, you're getting closer to the original you. The you who knew things without being taught them. Here's something profound that neuroscience just discovered. Your enteric nervous system, the neural network in your gut, processes information 500 milliseconds faster than your brain. That gut feeling isn't metaphorical. It's literally your body knowing something before your mind can analyze it. You've been carrying around a supercomputer your entire life, but everyone taught you to ignore its output. Now watch what happens when you start listening to it again. Decisions become effortless. You stop second guessing every choice. You know which opportunities to take and which people to avoid without needing to make pro and con lists. You trust the timing of your life instead of trying to force things to happen faster. This isn't intuition as some mystical gift. This is you operating at full capacity again. The strangest part? People start coming to you for advice. The same people who used to lecture you about what you should do are now asking what you think they should do because there's something different about you now. You've stopped performing confidence and started inhabiting it. You've stopped seeking approval and started trusting your own judgment. You've stopped following scripts and started writing your own story. The inner master isn't some enlightened being you need to channel. It's the person you were before the world convinced you that you weren't enough as you are. And the most beautiful part? Every answer you were desperately seeking outside yourself was always inside, waiting patiently for you to stop asking everyone else and start asking the only person who truly knows what's best for your life. You, the teacher you've been looking for, is looking back at you in the mirror. The seventh portal, the philosopher's stone. Right now, something is different about you. You can feel it, can't you? That subtle shift in how you're looking at your own life. Like someone just adjusted the lens on a camera you didn't even know you were looking through. This isn't the end of a video. It's the beginning of a recognition. Every word you've heard today was designed to wake up something that's been sleeping inside you, not to give you new information, but to remind you of what you've always known, but forgotten how to access. Here's what's going to happen next. You're going to close this video and return to your regular life. Your phone will buzz. Someone will need something from you. The world will try to pull you back into the same patterns, the same reactions, the same sleep you've been living in. But something has shifted. There's a part of you now that's awake and watching. When you catch yourself getting pulled into drama, there will be a pause, a split second where you remember you have a choice. When your mind starts spinning its familiar stories about what you need to be happy, there will be a whisper. Who's listening to these thoughts? The people around you might not notice at first, but they'll sense something different. You'll respond instead of react. You'll be present instead of distracted. You'll move through your days with a quiet knowing that you're not just this body, this name, this temporary story. Some of you will take this deeper. You'll start practicing the techniques we've discussed. You'll begin questioning everything you've assumed about yourself and reality. You'll discover that awakening isn't a destination. It's a way of being that gets richer and more mysterious the further you explore it. But here's the most important thing. This conversation doesn't end here. What you've experienced today is just the surface of what's possible when you start living consciously. There are layers upon layers of insight, practical techniques, and profound realizations waiting for those ready to go deeper. That's why you need to subscribe and turn on notifications. This isn't just content. It's a transmission of consciousness that builds on itself. Each video we create is designed to meet you exactly where you are in your awakening journey. and take you deeper into the mystery of who you really are. The people who transform their lives aren't the ones who watch once and forget. They're the ones who stay engaged, who let these insights compound, who treat awakening as an ongoing exploration rather than a one-time event. Your soul brought you to this moment. It guided you through whatever algorithm or recommendation led you here because it was ready to remember. But remembering is just the beginning. The real adventure starts when you begin living from this deeper knowing. Don't let this be another video you consume and forget. Let it be the moment you started taking your awakening seriously. Subscribe now. Your future self, the one who's fully awake, is waiting for you to take the next step.